Welcome to the Good Life Meditation for December 10th, 2021. Uh, let's review yesterday and last night. Maybe more telling last night. So yesterday was interesting. I actually went into work. Now working in a telecommuting environment. And I was kind of like, at someone at a family reunion that they hadn't been at for a long time. Because there was like a lot of people there that I know, most of the people I know. I was very excited to see everybody. I was a little nervous that maybe I wouldn't remember people's names, and that only happened a couple of times. It was interesting to see how people had changed, and I'm sure I did as well. For the most part, everybody was exactly what you'd expect 2 years later. I'll just leave it at that. And I know I was too. I am. It's interesting to have that momentary blindness and pop back and see what reality looks like, what change looks like. As usual, it wasn't as productive at the office as I'd hoped. It was in fact a friend and I were talking about how the human element in the office, really, and he and I are both very nose to the grindstone kind of guys, and the human element really detracts from productivity, although it adds to humanity, which is important too. It was a good day. Had a really nice last night. Yumiko she really made a really nice dinner last night, and she spent a lot of time on it. I mean, she must have been at that more than an hour or more. And don't think I don't appreciate that. I really appreciate her efforts. She really makes great meals, great dinners, great, and almost always Japanese food. Always, pretty much. And Emily appreciates it too. And I always offer to help, and she kind of just look at me, yeah, whatever. So she even said, she said, go watch something on TV, which I usually don't do. I'm not really a TV kind of a guy, cliche as that is. I'm not even an internet kind of guy. I'm not even. I just my evening days wind down so fast. My evening approach is usually with dog walking and taking a shower and getting ready for the next day. And then having dinner with my family. I'm done. I'm ready for bed. But anyway, I watched, which I've been doing since I came back here, watching an episode, which is only half an hour, of Midnight Diner from the Japanese Netflix series. And I cried, of course. Miko always, she yells from the kitchen, she says, "Are you crying again?" Because it was a good story. There's still more time. Like I said, she spent a lot of time cooking. So I then finished Apocalypse Now, which brought me back to, my teen years. The horror. Had an interesting conversation on the Discord with a couple of the people there about nihilism. Here's a hermit was commenting about how kind of reflecting on nihilism, the sense that nothing has any purpose, can be a very dark idea for some, and he was reflecting on that. And then Wayne and I were talking about how the idea of nihilism, being nihilists, doesn't fill us with dread or darkness, but kind of indifference in a way. It's like those band players on the Titanic. I don't know if it was real, but I think it was real. As the Titanic was sinking and the band played on, right? They're doomed. We're all doomed, from the nihilist perspective. And what's the use? Why play music? but you do, nonetheless. And just because. Because in this moment right now, even if life doesn't have a meaning, and even if other than whatever meaning we contrive, that's the key right there. Even if it doesn't, we can make it good now. We can cause, serotonin to appear in the brains of others. I can make my little pets happy. I can make my family happy. I can be a good citizen and good worker and make things good in the world, and even myself. So why not? So what if it's all for naught? Heat death of the universe in 5 billion years. We got 5 billion years. Let's talk about last night's sleep. Slept really good last night. I went to bed. I tried to get to bed by 9. I was finally asleep by 9:30, just with the busy work I was doing. Never quite climb into bed right on time. So up at 4, so I got less than 7 hours sleep last night. That's why I'm tired now. And I slept like a rock. I just bang out. Next thing I know, the alarm went off. Here comes Ollie. Hi, Ollie. Sorry, your bed's not here. Come up here if you want. So that's good. That's good that I'm sleeping well. A little bit anxious about. I feel like it's been a week and a day today on the new job, and I feel it's time for me to start putting together a plan. I am a project manager after all. It's time for me to start thinking how I'm going to manage these things, and I've got I think 3 projects now. Start organizing them all. Let's do the good life meditation. Here comes the other dog. First, the objectives. First is the objective to always be ready to die, to have everything sorted and squared and, ready to go. To have said I love you to everybody, to have my affairs in order and whatever words I want to write written. Number 2 is to make good and effective use of time, to not squander my living, nihilist that I am. Number 3 is the development and maintenance of good and sound life principles. To have principles that make sense of the world, that reflect the world as it appears to be, and that actually work. That's why I do this every morning. I think about them. Not as deep as I'd like. I haven't done that. I really need the desert to do that. It's a deep, deep thinking about these principles. I need to go to the desert. And then the next is the cultivation of good emotional reactions, to simply react well to the world. After that comes the performance of good actions, doing good things throughout the day. And then the recognition of true limits and true opportunities, followed by the one thing slowly, which has been a good week for the one thing slowly. I really caught myself, except for that incident yesterday, or the day before yesterday, was it, with the the package. Circus clown, that incident that was. Those are my objectives. Now for the principles. The first is the principle of war. To be at war with everything that I hold is true. Because I don't want to believe things if they're not true. Why would anybody want to do that? It's like covering your ears and saying, there's no storm outside. There's no storm outside, or even though there's thunder and lightning, right? Well, maybe if you can't bear it, maybe then it makes sense. But what kind of life is that? I'll live forever. I'll live forever. Number 2 is the reason and the 3 sub-principles of honesty, objectivity, and doubt. using reason to understand that, wow, there is a storm outside, and oh wow, it doesn't appear that I'll live forever. And then doing something about that. I mean, doing something about that insofar as maybe closing the windows in the stormy day, and making good use of the little time that we've got left. In the case of not living forever. Again, the nihilist response, right? Next is the principle of the homunculus, an idea that there's a little mortal that lives inside our head. Not really, of course, but that's a way to kind of personify our consciousness. A little man within a man, or a woman within a woman, and that this person, it's kind of, you can kind of anthropomorphize your consciousness, which seems like it would be an easy enough thing to do. But that gives us an object to who is the focus of both our pleasures and our suffering, and subject to our death. It's a little harder for a little man or woman inside our head to get away once we're dead than it would be a ghost. Both of them are fictions, of course, although consciousness is real. Next is the Anchorhold. I didn't make that term up, by the way. That comes from the Middle Ages. When the men or women who would hold themselves up into the walls, into a little chamber in the walls at the side of a church, and peek through a hole to watch the mass and receive food and water, and just spend their lives in a little cell. But I picture the Anchorhold as being a rock that sticks above the sea, where we sit or stand or pace. Be careful. We pace carefully because it's slippery, and if you fall in the sea, you're done for. And there's nobody else there. But there are other rocks, and there are other people on their rocks. And the tide rises and it falls, and when the water's high and it's close to our feet, we're anxious, especially when the storms come and the waters churn and waves come and the rain comes down, and it's not a pleasant place to be on the Anchorhold. But just like the tide in the real world, the water that surrounds the Anchorhold ebbs and flows, and usually after it's been high for a while, it drops down and we get a little relief. The rocks may dry a little bit, less slippery. The sun comes out and we can sit upon the rock and maybe even sunbathe a little bit and enjoy life for a few minutes. But the water dries again. So this ebb and flow and the storms and the sun and et cetera, et cetera. Those are the days of our lives. So are the days of our lives. But one day, we're going to end up in that water. And for some of us, it's a sudden slip and fall. And for others, it's a wearing trial of storm and rising sea and suffering in the end. And I remind myself of that, to remind myself two things. One, that it's part of nature, the nature of life, to live this in this cyclic nature of happiness and suffering and peace and anger and upset. Not necessarily anger, sometimes anger. It's just part of life. But it's also part of life for the cycle. So when the water's high and the seas are roaring, I take comfort in reminding myself the waters are going to go down. It gives me temperance. It gives me the ability to move through that less upset. Okay, the next principle is the principle of the Feast of Offal. The idea that when we get upset and we let the world know that we're upset, we're smearing our upset on others, who then in turn get upset themselves and smear their upset on others as well. And it's just this cascade. And I remind myself to not engage in that cascade, to try to maintain control over my outward expression of emotions. So manage my emotions so that I don't I don't make others the receptacles of my feelings. It doesn't mean we can't talk about it. It just means that we don't hit the release valve on and spew the steam on everybody else. Here, take this. The next is that was the Feast of Offal. Next is distraction. Life is a long series of distractions. We don't want to see the emptiness of the universe and the quiet eternity of nothing after death. Not even an eternity, it's just a nothing. So we don't want to see that. It's two principles. I'm going a little bit fast. I think the dogs want to go out. So that would be distraction and then agency and the great indifference. No, distraction and then, agency and the great indifference. Come here. You want to come sit on my lap? Come on. After that comes the principle of the best seat in the house. To not want to be anywhere else, or be doing anything else, but to be okay with who I am, where I am, and what I'm doing. I'm going to go a little bit fast for the sake of the dogs. I'm going to take them out. Although normally they don't want to go out. This is too early for them. I have to bribe them to go out. A little bit of snack. And after that comes the Path of Wildness, the way into and through new life. Then comes the come on, Path of Wildness. Then the principle of the risk of avoiding risk, the shallow risks and the deep risks. Are we gonna get settled into life with all the accoutrements, or are we going to swing some gear over our shoulder and find ourselves, or can we pull off both? The next is sin and damnation. There are 7 sins in my worldview. These are credulity, an over-eagerness to believe, hope, a desperate longing without action, faith, belief because we simply want to believe, superstition, which is believing a category of items which society practically recognizes are nonsense, dogma, which is believing things because tradition or some canonical text has written it as so or carried it as so. Authority, belief because someone that who seemingly commands our respect and says so. And then the last one is gossip, talking about other people without them knowing that you're doing it behind their back. The consequence of these sins is that we lived a damned life. Not a damned life, but a damned life. Damn life. Okay, after that is sin and damnation, and then a great life adventure, one or more marquee events in our life that define who we are. Then comes the season of philosophy, a time to record what we've learned along the way. Then the bullseye aim, striking for the mark but missing, usually. Sometimes by a lot, sometimes by just a bit. Then the uphill climb. Life is an uphill climb through the various years. And then almost done. Arena and utility. Life is this place where we do things. It's like an arena. We're like players in the arena. Athletes or gladiators or whatever you want to call it. And we have our instruments that we use. But instead of swords and shields, we've got objectives and principles. The things that we believe and the the life that we strive for ourselves and others. Those are our instruments. So we race around and kick up dust and make a fuss, and then we go away. Not even away. We go into oblivion. And what an oblivion it appears to be. It seems to be an oblivion from which there is no return, because the vehicle that makes up that gives the homunculus its little home, its little Anchorhold, the atomic principle reminds us that it dissolves away utterly, our bodies and our minds. And there's no chance of bringing that back, unless there's far more to this world than we understand, which may be the case. I don't have any reason to think so yet. Okay, the last one is the principle of one thing slowly. No, that's the last objective. Nothing is enough. I was thinking yesterday as I was coming in from putting some stuff in the trash. I had gone through the garage, and our garage has it's a 3-car garage, so at least there's 3 slots for cars. Only 2 doors, 2 cars can fit in, but there's a 3rd slot up front. And we kind of use that to store my bike and my motorcycle and all of our stuff. And I looked at how little stuff we have. We own so little. Nothing is enough. And I'd like to have less. All right, those are my objectives and principles. As for today, I don't have any meetings today, which is still kind of hard to believe that I have these work days and I only have a few meetings. When I worked for Ventura, I was having at least 6, 8, sometimes more meetings a day, and I ran all of them, or at least 80% of them, which means I had to create an agenda, run the meeting, align the notes, send them out, update projects, etc. It was like a 2-year sprint, project management term aside. And the new job is at least not yet, not nearly like that, because it's only been a week, and I have 3 projects. I only had 3 projects at the last job too, so I guess maybe it's coming. I am nervous about it, but gosh darn it, I don't feel satisfied that I don't feel like I had the best week that I could have. I worked hard the whole time, but I feel like I was distracted not by anybody, but by things. I wanted to be farther by today than I could. So I'm going to really use today to try to put in place the artifacts for the 3 projects. That includes the team sites, and more importantly, or equally importantly, the corresponding projects in the ServiceNow project management module that we're using. And I need to find the way that those 2 systems are going to work together. I put together a little diagram and that I think captured that. And I mentioned yesterday that was the thing that I missed the mark. I used the idea of a sign pointing in the wrong direction. In hindsight, I think it wasn't as bad as I thought. So I would love to finish the day with those artifacts in place. The team sites and the ServiceNow sites. And then the way they're going to work together. And then next week, begin in earnest building the charter, the business case, if only the business case, maybe just the business case for all 3 of those projects. That would be a good day. So why mess around? Why not just start it, Kurt? Let's do it. So I want to wish you all the best. Thank you for joining me today. Ollie and I will sign off for now. Remember to be safe, but not too safe. Bye-bye.